Cape Coral, Florida, a city built on water, calm neighborhoods, and the kind of quiet that makes people feel safe. But in July 2023, that calm was shattered when one man simply vanished.
My best friend of 40 years, his name is Barry. He lives in Cape Coral, Florida. I think I was the last message that he had on July 19th. He was out at a bar on Wednesday, the 19th of July.
So this is what I found. Everybody's messaging him, where are you, where are you, where are you, and then this came up.
Standing over there by the pool, all the cops were here, and I was like, hey man, what's up? He's like, hey, and I'm like, you know what's going on? And he said, yeah, they're searching my condo. And I was like, ooh, that's no good. And he said, yeah, my boyfriend's missing.
It's been 7 days. You know, no contact with anybody for 7 days. That's not normal for anybody that's even upset. That's not normal not to contact anybody for 7 days.
But while his body hadn't been found, something else was showing up in its place. Suspicion. Behind closed doors, people started asking, what happened to Barry? And more importantly, who was the last person to see him alive? The answer? His boyfriend, Christopher Davis. Christopher claimed Barry left on his own, that he just needed space. But nothing about that felt right. Not to Barry's friends, not to investigators, and eventually not to the law. Because soon strange details began to surface. A disturbing purchase here, an unusual transaction there. Surveillance footage, inconsistencies, things that didn't add up. And most of them pointed back to one man. But here's where it gets even darker. Barry's body was never found. No grave, no remains, nothing.
Mr. Schmalbach has not been heard from or seen since the evening of July 19th, 2023, near the 1800 block of Beach Parkway East here in Cape Coral, near his home. At this time, we do have a person of interest. However, I'm unable to name that person today. Our detectives continue to actively pursue all leads and process pertinent evidence in our attempt to locate Mr. Schmalbach.
So how do you prove someone's been murdered when there's no body? This is the story of a case built entirely on shadows, on clues left behind, lies told too smoothly, and a justice system forced to chase the truth without the most basic piece of evidence, the victim himself. The disappearance of Barry Schmalbach would become one of Florida's most chilling no-body murder cases, a test of how far the law can go when someone tries to erase another person completely. What really happened behind the doors of that quiet Florida condo? What was Christopher hiding? And how did investigators piece together a murder with nothing but fragments? This case will leave you questioning everything, because sometimes the scariest part of a crime is the silence it leaves behind. Barry Schmalbach was the kind of man people remembered for all the right reasons: gentle, thoughtful, and reliable. At 56 years old, he had carved out a stable life in Cape Coral, Florida. He was responsible, deeply loyal to his friends, and lived a routine that rarely wavered. He wasn't flashy or reckless, just consistent, grounded. He shared his home with his partner, Christopher Davis, a man nearly 20 years younger. To outsiders, their relationship appeared quiet, normal even. But those close to Barry knew it wasn't always peaceful. Though no public reports of violence had surfaced, the dynamic between them raised occasional concern. Barry sometimes seemed withdrawn, guarded, as if something unspoken lingered beneath the surface.
Hey, it's me. Give me a call. I need your help. I need to get rid of this idiot because I can't take it anymore.
He made his calls, stayed in touch with friends, and showed up when expected. That's why, when Barry suddenly stopped responding on July 19th, 2023, alarm bells rang almost immediately. No one could reach him. Messages were left unread. His phone went dark. Days passed without a word. Something was wrong. Christopher told people Barry had just gone out or was laying low. But his calm demeanor and vague explanations only added to the unease. Barry's friends grew suspicious. This wasn't like him. He didn't vanish. He didn't just leave. When police were finally alerted, they found no signs of forced entry, no blood, no broken furniture. But Barry was gone. Just gone. And as investigators looked closer, a disturbing picture began to form. At first glance, there was nothing to see. No body, no visible crime scene, no evidence of a struggle. But investigators weren't just looking for what was there. They were looking for what wasn't. And what was missing was Barry. Detectives started with surveillance. Footage from nearby cameras showed Barry and Christopher walking into their shared condo on the evening of July 19th. Barry was never seen again.
My best friend of 40 years, his name is Barry. He lives in Cape Coral, Florida. I think I was the last message that he had on July 19th. He was out at a bar on Wednesday, the 19th of July.
Neighbors recalled hearing loud thuds and what they described as moaning or muffled cries that night, unusual sounds coming from the couple's unit. No one called the police at the time, but in hindsight, those noises would become a haunting piece of the puzzle.
I was watching some TV, and between that time, I heard something directly right above my unit where I was sitting, because we had, like I said, had the same floor plans. I heard something being thrown up against the wall and heard, no, no, no.
And did you hear anything after that?
Yeah, a couple minutes later, I heard this noise, and it gave me chills, like the hair on my arms, and it was, like someone losing their last breaths.
The next day, Christopher Davis was seen leaving the condo alone. Over the following days, he made multiple strange purchases. Surveillance cameras captured him buying duct tape, a tarp, and later a shovel and pickaxe. Investigators found these items chilling, especially since Barry's whereabouts were still unknown. But the behavior didn't stop there. Christopher began using Barry's credit cards. He withdrew money from Barry's accounts and even wore his wristwatch in public. It was as if he'd absorbed Barry's identity and was now attempting to live it. Police tracked Davis's movements to an Airbnb he rented under a false name in a different part of town. When officers searched the property, they found items believed to be used for concealing or transporting a body, cleaning supplies, gloves, and a heavy-duty trash bin. The guest list showed no checkout. The room had a strange smell. Cadaver dogs were brought in to search Barry's Jeep, which had remained parked outside the condo. The dogs immediately alerted to the scent of human decomposition, clear, undeniable, and deeply disturbing. What investigators were beginning to suspect was horrifying. Barry hadn't just gone missing, he had been murdered, silently, deliberately, and then erased. Still, without a body, proving it would be difficult. But piece by piece, Davis made it easier for them. Phone records revealed Google searches related to decomposition and body disposal. Christopher had also bought large trash bags, a new mop, and industrial-strength cleaner. And though he claimed Barry had just walked away, all of Barry's belongings, his keys, ID, and car, were still at home. The final blow came from Davis himself. Under questioning, he contradicted himself repeatedly. His timeline changed. His explanations didn't hold up. He grew defensive, distant, and then strangely indifferent.
So my boyfriend Barry hasn't been home in a few days. He told me he was going with friends. His friends called me today, said that they haven't heard from him. Now I'm calling. I'm beginning to get in the middle stages of worried. He did leave his Apple Watch here. I just turned it on. And apparently he was having an Italian dinner with someone last night, and I think that thing might be taking like a different kind of shape, but he is not responding to me or his friends.
So I saw in the notes, it said that he needed some space. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have like an open relationship, and he's been talking to guys on Grindr and like doing that kind of thing, and so that's what he like. That's what I took the space to mean, and it's because he goes out of town all the time. And if you want to look at my phone, I can show you. He's done this 3 or 4 times, where he's. And then if you look here, if you want to go back, you can see where like he's ghosted me before.
What day was this?
For days. This one right here.
Yeah. What is all that? Is that from yesterday?
No. This is from another time. This is from about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
where he did this same thing, which is why I did initially like freak out, but like it's happened more and more frequently, and I don't know if he's got like maybe he's got like a drug problem or like you said, like he does business from home. I don't know that.
Okay.
And so he leaves and goes. He was just in Wisconsin for 2 weeks. He was in Los Angeles San Diego for 2 weeks. He was just in Chicago before that.
Okay. So when is the last time that
If you look and see, this is what I'm saying. It's like this has happened.
is this all you?
Yeah, this is all me.
Okay, he's not
But this is-
responding back.
Yeah, so that was on July 5th.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Is like this happens all the time.
Okay.
And so I don't know what to do, but I wanted to go ahead and file a report because his friends are now saying that like I need to because he's not responding to them. And friends.
Prosecutors would later say his demeanor was that of a man who had rehearsed lies, but hadn't practiced enough. By now, the case was undeniable. This wasn't a disappearance. It was a cover-up. Investigators arrested Christopher Davis and charged him with second-degree murder, evidence tampering, and multiple counts of fraud for assuming Barry's identity after his death.
This has culminated with the issuance of an arrest warrant for Christopher Davis on 1 count of second-degree murder, 1 count of tampering with evidence, and 9 counts of fraudulent use of personal identification of a deceased individual.
The crime shocked the community not because of how it happened, but because of how clean it was. No blood, no body, no frantic escape. Just a man calmly continuing life as if nothing had happened. Wearing the victim's watch, spending his money, sleeping in the same bed where he likely ended Barry's life. And yet, for all his planning, Davis left behind the one thing that always betrays a killer: details. The kind you can't wipe away. The kind that speak louder than a confession ever could. Barry was gone, but his absence became the loudest piece of evidence in the case. Once Barry Schmalbach was reported missing, investigators had little to work with. No crime scene, no body, and no eyewitnesses. But what they did have was a gut feeling that something was wrong. And in cases like this, instincts matter. Detectives began with the most obvious lead: Barry's live-in boyfriend, Christopher Davis. Davis claimed Barry had left on his own, offering vague timelines and casual dismissals. But the more he talked, the more detectives noticed. His version of events wasn't just hazy, it was inconsistent. And that's where the real digging began. The first clue came from digital forensics. Barry's phone, which had gone dark on July 19th, was last pinged near his condo. It had never left the area. His credit cards, however, told a different story. They were still active, but not by Barry. Davis had been using them. In the days after Barry's disappearance, Davis withdrew cash from Barry's accounts, bought groceries, and even visited a gas station wearing Barry's watch. Surveillance footage from several stores placed Davis using Barry's cards, looking composed and methodical. It was eerie. He wasn't acting like a worried partner. He was acting like someone filling the void.
Thank you. And how can I help you today?
You just add my card to the phone.
Let's start by getting your social security number.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Your mother's maiden name?
Jacqueline.
That's her maiden name?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's been a long night.
Investigators then focused on local surveillance from nearby condos and businesses. They reviewed hours of footage and discovered Davis purchasing duct tape, a large tarp, industrial cleaning products, and trash bags from multiple locations. He also rented a nearby Airbnb under a fake name, using Barry's card. When officers visited the Airbnb, they found signs of recent cleaning and strong chemical odors. Though no body or physical remains were found, the smell and the strange items discovered on site raised red flags. It was as if Davis had planned out every step, except for how closely people were watching. Next came the physical evidence. Cadaver dogs were brought in to search Barry's Jeep, which was parked right outside the condo. Within minutes, they alerted to the unmistakable scent of human decomposition, specifically in the cargo area. For investigators, this was a major turning point. There was no sign of Barry, but his scent lingered in a vehicle he never drove alone. As they worked to map Davis's movements, detectives uncovered damning purchase records, a shovel, a pickaxe, and heavy-duty gloves, all acquired after Barry went missing. Google searches linked to Davis's IP address showed queries about decomposition timelines and how to move a body. The picture was becoming clear. This wasn't a disappearance, it was a cover-up. Interviews with neighbors added fuel to the fire. Several reported hearing strange, loud banging and muffled sounds coming from the couple's condo around the time Barry vanished. One even recalled hearing something that sounded like crying or gasping.
I heard this noise, and it gave me chills, like the hair on my arms, and it was like someone losing their last breath. Maybe 10 minutes later, I heard chirp, chirp, which was a car.
Okay.
Someone opening up their car. And I, like I said, I know it had to be around 9 o'clock, and I thought, well, that's weird. There's only 3 of us on my side of the building, and they were one upstairs, and like I said, I know they go to bed early, and Mary was downstairs. She don't go nowhere, and it was me. So I thought, well, it's time for me to go to bed. So I went to the front to lock the door, and as I walked by my window, I thought, let me see who. And I looked out, and Barry's Jeep was missing.
So I went to the front door, opened it up just a little bit, maybe 10 inches, and I heard the plastic. And then within just a few seconds, I saw a person dragging something back into the, where I could see like the back half of them. They were bent over, dragging something, and then I could spot them, their back end.
At the time, they brushed it off, but now they realized they may have heard a man fighting for his life. Detectives also noticed how quickly Davis tried to erase Barry from the world. He told friends Barry had probably run off. He lied to Barry's own sister, claiming he didn't know anything.
Why didn't they call the police? I mean, if you hear, yeah, I'm really upset about that too. They should have called the police. Or somehow, oh, hey, we can hear you down here. Maybe it would have stopped him, I would have called the cops or banged on the wall and said, hey, I can hear you down here. Something, to startle him out of the state that he must have been in when he did this to my brother.
He canceled Barry's appointments, stopped taking calls from mutual friends, and even tried to sell some of Barry's belongings. It all pointed to one thing: guilt. Without a body, prosecutors knew they needed overwhelming circumstantial evidence, and they were building it fast. Every lie Davis told, every item he bought, every place he went, it all painted the same picture. Barry Schmalbach hadn't walked away from his life. Someone had taken it from him. With a digital trail, financial fraud, and cadaver dog alerts in hand, investigators were ready to move. Even without a body, the weight of the evidence was undeniable. On September 14th, 2023, nearly 2 months after Barry vanished, police arrested Christopher Davis at his condo in Cape Coral. The charges: second-degree murder, evidence tampering, and multiple counts of identity theft and financial fraud. Davis reportedly showed no emotion during his arrest. No protest, no confusion, no visible fear. At the station, he was interviewed again, but this time his calm began to crack. Faced with surveillance footage, financial records, and phone data, Davis struggled to maintain his earlier lies. He contradicted himself on timelines, purchases, and what he had done in the days after Barry disappeared. Still, he never confessed. Police released a statement saying that although Barry's body had not been found, they had full confidence in the evidence. Prosecutors echoed that sentiment, calling it a no-body homicide case, rare but not unprecedented. Friends and family of Barry were devastated but relieved. After weeks of silence, someone was finally being held accountable. They still hoped for one thing: to find Barry, to bring him home, and to bury him with dignity. But for now, they had what mattered most. Proof that Barry's story wasn't forgotten, and that justice was catching up with the man who tried to erase him. By the time Christopher Davis stepped into a Lee County courtroom in June 2025, the prosecution had spent nearly 2 years building a case against him, without the one thing that usually anchors a murder charge: a body. But what they did have was a narrative built brick by brick through forensic leads, surveillance footage, digital trails, and a pattern of deception that was impossible to ignore. The trial, which lasted just 4 days, was tense from the beginning. Prosecutors made it clear, although Barry Schmalbach's body had not been recovered, the evidence against Davis was overwhelming. They presented Davis not just as a liar, but as a manipulator who killed his partner, erased the crime scene, and attempted to step into Barry's life as if nothing had happened.
No, no. Those are the last noises that the neighbor heard from Barry Schmalbach's apartment before Barry was never seen or heard from again.
The jury heard testimony from forensic experts who explained the significance of the cadaver dogs alerting inside Barry's Jeep. Even without DNA or visible blood, the dog's behavior was strong enough to indicate the presence of human remains in the vehicle. The prosecution emphasized that cadaver dog alerts had been used to help solve dozens of other homicides, and in this case, it was key. Surveillance footage from stores where Davis purchased duct tape, a shovel, tarp, gloves, and cleaning supplies was shown frame by frame. Each clip presented Davis casually going about his day, acquiring tools typically used for body disposal. The prosecution argued that no innocent person buys those specific items days after their partner mysteriously disappears. They also brought in bank and phone records showing Davis had used Barry's credit cards, drained his accounts, and searched for decomposition timelines on Google. Jurors saw text message screenshots where Davis lied to friends, saying Barry was off doing his own thing, all while actively assuming control of his finances and identity. Perhaps the most emotional moments came from Barry's loved ones. They testified to his reliability, his character, and the absolute impossibility that he would ever just disappear without telling anyone. One friend broke down on the stand saying, Barry didn't vanish, he was taken. Davis's defense tried to challenge the circumstantial nature of the case. They argued that without a body, no one could be sure Barry was even dead. They claimed Davis acted strangely because he was under stress and grieving. But the jury didn't buy it. When Davis took the stand, his performance backfired. His tone was cold, at times dismissive. He dodged direct questions and contradicted previous statements. The prosecution seized the moment to reinforce his lack of remorse and mechanical detachment. In their closing arguments, prosecutors asked a chilling question. If Barry was still alive, where is he? Why hasn't he used his bank account, called his friends, or come home?
And Barry leaves and goes wandering down Beach Parkway, and if you heard, Beach Parkway goes kind of through the river in Cape Coral, and then there's canals all around it. And say someone's coming down Beach Parkway and mows them down because they're drunk too, DUI manslaughter. Oh my God, my life's ruined. What do I do? Crap. They're in the car and go. Meanwhile, his wallet fell out and is now in a storm drain. Well, let's get rid of that. Let's blame it all on Chris. Let's infer from the evidence everything. It's all on him, the mastermind here.
The only one who doesn't want him found is sitting right there. On June 26, 2025, the jury returned its verdict, guilty on all counts, second-degree murder, evidence tampering, and multiple charges of identity theft and fraud. Judge Lisa Morales sentenced Christopher Davis to life in prison without parole, plus additional years for the financial crimes. She called his actions calculating, remorseless, and an insult to every person who loved Barry Schmalbach.
Verdict. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 1 of the charge. Count 1, second-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of second-degree murder. Count 2, tampering with physical evidence.
There were tears in the courtroom, not just for justice, but for the haunting absence of a man whose body still hadn't been found. Justice had been served, But closure, that remained elusive. The guilty verdict in the murder of Barry Schmalbach brought a sense of resolution, but not peace. For Barry's friends and family, justice came without the one thing they still desperately needed: his body. Without that, there could be no funeral, no goodbye, no place to lay flowers. Just a name, a photo, and a memory that still feels unfinished. In the weeks following the trial, investigators continued searching for Barry's remains. They combed through wooded areas, construction sites, and even abandoned wells based on vague geolocation data from Davis's phone. But nothing surfaced. It was as if Barry had vanished completely, a thought that continues to haunt those who loved him. His sister Angela became the family's voice after the sentencing. In interviews, she said she was grateful Davis would never walk free, but admitted, "We still wake up every day hoping he'll finally tell us where Barry is. That's all we want now, to bring him home." Community response to the trial was profound. The case made local headlines not just because of its chilling nature, but because it raised an uncomfortable truth. A person can disappear in plain sight, and their killer can walk free for weeks or months before anyone even notices. Prosecutors and law enforcement received praise for pursuing a conviction in a no-body homicide, a rare legal feat. National media outlets took note of the trial, calling it a blueprint for how to build a murder case from absence. For true crime followers, it was a chilling reminder that modern forensics, digital trails, and psychological profiling can be powerful tools, even when there's no crime scene to examine. But the scars of this case go deeper. Friends who once visited Barry's home now can't bring themselves to drive past it. His Jeep sits in evidence storage, a grim reminder of what was lost. And Christopher Davis? He remains in a maximum security facility, offering no confessions, no cooperation, no closure. Rumors continue to swirl online. Some say Barry's body may be in the Everglades, others believe it was disposed of at sea, but none of these theories have been confirmed, and authorities say Davis is the only person who knows the truth, a truth he has chosen to keep locked away. For Barry's family, the hope is that one day someone will come forward. Maybe Davis himself. Maybe someone who knows something but has stayed silent. Until then, they hold on to what they do have: justice, memories, and a community that refused to let Barry's story disappear the way his body did. The aftermath of Barry Schmalbach's murder reminds us that not all crimes leave visible scars, but the silence they leave behind can be just as devastating. The story of Barry Schmalbach is one of silence, haunting, deliberate silence. A man who vanished without a trace, a partner who lied without remorse, and a courtroom that brought justice without ever recovering the one thing that mattered most: Barry himself. Christopher Davis thought he could erase someone, not just kill, but remove, from the world, from memory, from existence. No screams, no blood, just an empty space where a life used to be. But what he didn't count on was the trail left behind, the receipts, the surveillance, the smell in the Jeep, the friends who refused to stay quiet, the detectives who refused to give up. He underestimated the fact that some absences are louder than any confession. Barry may have been taken, but he was never forgotten. This case is a chilling reminder that justice doesn't always come with a body. Sometimes it comes with patterns, with lies, with the weight of things that don't add up. Prosecutors didn't need a corpse. They had the echo of a life abruptly stopped, and that was enough to lock Christopher Davis away forever. Still, the ending remains unfinished. Barry hasn't been found. His family wakes up every day hoping for one thing: to bring him home, to lay him to rest, to turn this nightmare into something they can finally close. Until then, there's a hole in the ground where a grave should be, a silence that justice couldn't fully fill, and a question that still lingers: where is Barry?